You want respect? Then stop asking for it. You want power? Then stop talking about it, because real fear, real dominance is silent. When I walk into a room, I don't need to announce who I am. They already feel it. And by the time they realize what's happening, I've already taken control. You want that? Then listen, and don't blink. Your aura begins before you arrive. They should feel you long before they lay eyes on you, not because you're loud, not because you're flashy, but because you carry something most men don't: weight. The kind of weight that can't be faked. And it's not in your muscles, and it's not in your clothes. It's in your silence. It's in your energy. It's in your discipline, sharpened over years of solitude, failure, repetition, and mental war. When a man has faced himself in the darkest hours of the night, when he's burned his ego, silenced the need to be accepted, and trained his mind to move without doubt, he stops entering rooms like everyone else. You don't rush. You don't stumble over your words. You don't chase attention. You walk like your shadow weighs a ton, like every step is measured, like your focus is too expensive to waste on small things. People notice instantly, but they don't know why. Their chest tightens. Their voices drop. Some look away, some stare too long. They try to figure you out, but they can't, because you've removed everything about yourself that could be used against you. You don't speak unless it's necessary. And when you do, your words are surgical, clean, short, precise. No fluff, no jokes, no filler. You don't explain who you are. You don't react to being misunderstood. You let the mystery work for you, because when people can't define you, they can't predict you. And what can't be predicted is feared. You don't need to intimidate anyone. But your discipline will, your silence will, your self-control will. People are used to noise. They expect overconfidence, fake smiles, nervous laughs, flashy behavior. They expect weakness dressed up as charisma. But you walk in calm, cold, clear. You don't need the room. The room adjusts to you. And when you step closer, they feel it, not because you're doing anything obvious, but because they sense something primal. An intensity that's not being shown, but contained. That's what builds the tension. That's what builds the fear. That's what makes your presence unforgettable. You're not trying to be someone. You are someone. And when you walk away, they'll talk about you, not because of what you said, but because of what they felt and couldn't explain. Control the room with your stillness. When most people walk into a room, they try to grab attention. They talk louder. They move faster. They fill the space with noise because deep down they're afraid of being invisible. But you do the opposite. You don't need to dominate through words. You dominate through stillness, through presence, through the kind of silence that makes people look twice and feel something shift in the air. Stillness is not emptiness. It's control. It tells the room, I'm not here to be seen, I'm here to see, and I miss nothing. When you sit still, shoulders square, eyes locked, expression calm, you become unreadable, and unreadable men are dangerous. People can handle loud, they can handle arrogant, they can even handle aggressive. But what they can't handle is calm, cold silence. It makes their mind start racing. Why isn't he talking? What is he thinking? Is he judging me? What does he know that I don't? They project their fears onto you. They imagine you're more powerful than you are because you're not trying to prove anything. That's the psychological weapon. While they talk too much, you say nothing. While they try to impress, you observe. While they move around, you stay grounded like stone, because when you've trained your mind to be still, you've already won a battle 99% of men lose every day. You don't fidget, you don't seek comfort, and you don't break eye contact. And you never react too quickly. You let others reveal themselves, and you let their insecurity grow in the silence. They'll start talking more to fill the space. They'll start laughing at their own jokes. They'll shift their posture. They'll look for your approval. And when they don't get it, they'll feel smaller, because stillness is dominance without force. It's confidence without performance. It's power without aggression. The man who controls his stillness controls the atmosphere. You don't follow the rhythm of the room. You make the room follow yours, and the moment they adjust their energy to match yours, you've already taken control. Without a single word, without a single move, just presence, just precision, just pure silent command. That's the kind of power they don't recover from, because it doesn't fade. It stays in their mind long after you've left the room. Train yourself to be unreachable. Most men are easy to find, not physically, mentally. You say one thing, they react. You insult them, they respond. You ignore them, they chase. Their emotions are hooked to the world like wires. Tug the right string and you control them. But that's not you, because you've trained yourself to be unreachable. It doesn't mean you're hiding. It means they can't touch you. When you walk through the world with discipline stitched into every move, when your validation no longer comes from applause or attention, when your self-worth is built in silence, pain, and endless repetition, you become something they've never met before, a man with nothing to prove, a mind that doesn't flinch, a presence that doesn't shrink. You don't rise with praise. You don't fall with criticism. You stay the same, calm, focused, distant, not cold, but untouchable. Because you've already done the work in places they've never dared to go. You've fought wars in your own head and won. You've killed the old version of yourself so many times that there's nothing left to threaten. And people feel that. They try to trigger you and fail. They try to impress you and you don't blink. They try to connect on a fake level and you don't move. That's when they realize you're not like them. You don't need what they need. You're not searching. You're not chasing. You're built. And what's built in silence can't be shaken by noise. This is why you never explain yourself. You don't overshare. You don't seek closure, because men like you don't live at the surface. You operate in depth, and depth is rare. Depth is feared. You keep your thoughts to yourself. You protect your time like it's sacred. You don't rush to reply, and you never try to convince anyone of your worth. Why would you? You're not trying to be seen. You're not trying to be liked. You're trying to stay unreachable. Because in a world full of people begging for attention, the man who moves in silence, the man who speaks when necessary and lives like a shadow no one can hold, becomes a myth. And that's when the fear begins. Not fear of violence, fear of mystery, fear of power they can't figure out. You don't need to fight. Your distance already disarms them. Your silence already haunts them. Your calm already confuses them. You've trained for this every day, every night, alone, without applause, without comfort. Now you've become what they can't reach, what they can't control, what they can't define. And when they realize that they won't try to get close anymore, they'll keep their distance, not out of hate, but out of respect. The kind that only silence and mastery can earn. Use eye contact like a weapon. Most people use eye contact to connect, to be liked, to build trust. But not you. You use it to dominate, to dissect, to control. Because when you've mastered yourself, even your eyes become a weapon. Not loud, not aggressive, but sharp enough to cut through masks without saying a word. Most men look around the room hoping to be seen. You look through the room like you already own it. And when your eyes lock on someone, they feel it immediately. The pressure, the stillness, the quiet storm behind your gaze, you're not looking at them, you're reading them. Like a predator studying his environment, calculating, silent, cold. And that scares people, because most of them are hiding something. Insecurity, weakness, lies. They're used to being around people who look but don't see, but your eyes strip away their illusions. You don't blink out of nervousness. You don't shift your gaze to make them comfortable. You hold it just long enough to unsettle them. And then you look away, not out of fear, but out of complete control. And that's when the mind games begin. Because you didn't give them what they expected. You didn't smile. You didn't nod. You didn't seek connection. You left them with questions. What did he see in me? Did I look weak? Why do I feel exposed? That single moment rewires how they view you. You didn't touch them, you didn't speak, but they remember how you made them feel. Like prey standing in front of something ancient, disciplined, and lethal. Your eyes tell a story. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm not here to connect. I see you, and I see everything. You don't chase dominance. You let your gaze speak for you 1 second too long, and they'll look away. Because looking into the eyes of a man who's tamed his demons, who's killed his ego, who's not interested in being liked, is terrifying. And if they don't look away, you still win, because they had to try to match your stillness. But your stillness wasn't an act. It was your default. It's not about staring contests or intimidation games. It's about energy, controlled energy, the kind that turns your eyes into mirrors and makes people afraid of their own reflection. They don't remember what you said. They don't even remember what you did. They remember your eyes, focused, silent, unshakable, and that's enough to shift the entire power dynamic. No voice raised, no threats made, just a stare, delivered with precision, backed by discipline, and powered by something most men will never understand: total inner control. Make your movements costly. Most people move like their energy is cheap. They fidget, they pace, they talk with their hands too much. Their body is a billboard screaming for attention, trying to be seen, trying to be liked, trying to feel important. But you move like every action costs something, because it does. Time, energy, presence. These are currencies you don't waste. Every step you take is measured. Every gesture is deliberate. Every movement is rooted in discipline and control. You don't rush, you don't flinch, you don't chase. You're not reacting to the world. The world is reacting to you. That's what makes people stop and notice. They don't consciously understand why. But when you enter a room and stand still like stone, when you walk without urgency, but with absolute certainty, when your posture is clean, straight, and silent, they feel it. Your movements carry pressure, not speed, not noise, but weight. Because you've trained yourself to be efficient. No wasted steps, no pointless gestures. You don't scratch your neck because you're nervous. You don't shuffle your feet like you're unsure. You don't reach for your phone every 5 seconds just to look busy. You stand like a statue carved from war. You walk like a man with nothing to prove but everything under control. And that stillness, that intentionality, terrifies people. Why? Because they know they're not like you. They feel the difference. You're not just calm. You're dangerous without even trying. You don't need to swing to deliver impact. Just shifting your body slightly, just turning your head slowly, just stepping forward with complete control is enough to make people step back. Because movement that carries purpose commands respect. They realize you're not performing. You're not adjusting for anyone. You're not part of the noise. You are the storm they didn't expect. Silent, controlled, precise. The more you train your body to move with purpose, the more you kill the habits of cheap energy. The more your presence becomes unshakable. People won't know why their throat tightens when you step closer. They won't understand why the air feels heavier when you sit down. But they'll feel it because your movements tell the truth. I'm not here for attention. I'm not here for approval. I'm here with intent, and every second you get from me is earned. That's the difference between the ordinary and the elite. Ordinary men move to fill space. Elite men move to shape it. You don't waste motion. You don't waste presence. You don't waste anything. Because when your movements are costly, your silence becomes priceless, and your presence becomes unforgettable. Say less than you know more than you show. Most men talk too much. They speak to be heard, not to be understood. They reveal their entire mindset in the first 5 minutes. What they fear, what they want, what they're chasing. They want to impress, so they talk about their money, their past, their plans. They want to connect, so they overshare. They want to win, so they speak without thinking. But power, real power, doesn't speak unless it has to. You say less than you know, always, because your knowledge is a weapon, and a wise warrior never shows his full arsenal. When you speak, you've already calculated the cost. You don't talk to fill space, you speak to change it. And when you know more than you show, you walk through this world 10 steps ahead of the average man. Because while they're broadcasting their entire playbook, you're listening, studying, staying silent and invisible until it's time to strike. You let them underestimate you. You let them assume. You let them get comfortable because silence is your camouflage. And when they misread you, you win. They don't see the hours you've spent training in the dark. They don't know how many battles you've fought in your own head. They don't understand how cold your discipline runs. You let your stillness disarm them. And when you speak with precision. A short sentence, a single line, calm, controlled, lethal. And it hits harder than a speech full of empty pride because your words carry weight. They were earned, sharpened in silence, backed by action. You never explain yourself. You never try to correct their assumptions because you don't need to be understood to be effective. You let them talk. You let them try to figure you out. You let them feel smart. But while they're talking, you're watching their eyes, their posture, their tone. You're already 3 moves ahead because your silence isn't emptiness. It's strategy. That's what most men will never learn. The moment they open their mouth, they give away their mindset. But you stay closed. You observe more than you speak, and you act more than you explain. Because when you speak less than you know, people start hanging onto every word. They listen harder, they respect more, because they don't get much. And when people can't read you, they fear you. Because silence creates mystery, and mystery creates tension, and tension creates power. That's why you move in silence. That's why you speak with discipline. That's why you keep them guessing. Because the moment they think they understand you, you've already evolved. You don't need to be loud to be lethal. You don't need to be seen to be felt. You are the man who says less, but means more. Who reveals less, but knows more, and in a world addicted to noise. That makes you unstoppable. Become comfortable being misunderstood. Most men panic when they're misunderstood. They rush to explain. They try to fix their image. They chase validation like oxygen, because deep down they're still afraid of not being liked, not being accepted, not being seen. But you've outgrown that weakness. You've burned the part of you that needed to be understood by everyone, because truth is, powerful men are always misunderstood. And that's not a weakness, it's a weapon. Let them misunderstand your silence as arrogance. Let them call your discipline cold. Let them think your distance means you're detached, heartless, or cruel. You don't need to correct them. You don't need to prove them wrong. You let them talk while you build. Every second you waste explaining yourself to people who aren't built like you is a second stolen from your mission. You are not here to fit in. You are not here to be soft enough to swallow. You are not here to become digestible for people who never had the stomach for greatness. You are built of silence, sharpened by pain, trained in solitude. People won't understand that because they've never tasted it. They've never had to stand alone in the dark with no hand to hold. They've never had to choose growth over comfort, truth over approval, discipline over popularity, but you have. So now, when people misread you, you stay calm because their opinion doesn't shape your path. Their confusion doesn't lower your value. Their discomfort with your strength is not your problem. Let them say what they want. Let them project their own fears onto your silence. Let them write their own stories about you while you stay locked in, focused, unmoved. Because power isn't about being accepted. It's about being undeniable. And to be undeniable, you have to become comfortable being unreachable, unrelatable, misunderstood. They'll laugh at your boundaries. They'll question your motives. They'll say you're too serious, too distant, too intense. Good. Because they're supposed to be confused by you. You're not for everyone. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be respected. And true respect never comes from explaining yourself. It comes from standing firm in who you are, even when the whole world misunderstands it. You want to know how to build real fear without saying a word? Walk into a room full of noise and remain unbothered, remain still, remain quiet. Remain you. They'll start whispering, they'll start guessing, they'll start watching. Because a man who is completely at peace being misunderstood is a man no one can control, no one can break, and no one can forget. When you enter, the game changes. When you enter, everything should change. Not because you demand attention, not because you speak loud or try to dominate, but because your energy carries a frequency most people have never encountered. And when it enters a space, it alters the entire rhythm. The air tightens. Conversations slow down. Eyes shift. The atmosphere bends itself around your presence. Because a man who's mastered silence, discipline, and inner control doesn't just arrive. He disrupts. You don't walk into a room to take part. You walk in knowing you are the shift. And it's not something you do. It's something you are, because long before you entered that space, you were building this presence in the dark. Every early morning representative, every ignored distraction, every moment of isolation you didn't run from, every test you endured in silence while the world wasn't watching. Those sacrifices built a pressure inside you. That pressure has weight, and when you move, the room feels it. People stop talking the same. They become more careful with their words. They become more aware of their actions, not because you told them to, but because your existence rewrites the rules of the room. That's the difference between noise and power. Power doesn't have to announce itself. It just has to arrive. You sit down, and suddenly others sit straighter. You walk past and conversations pause. You don't even make eye contact, but they feel you watching, and they change because your presence commands it. You've earned that energy by suffering in silence, by training without applause, by rejecting comfort in a world addicted to it. Now, your silence isn't just quiet. It's louder than words. They feel something when you enter, a discomfort, a tension, a mysterious force they can't define but can't ignore, because they're face to face with something they've tried to avoid their whole lives. A man who doesn't need anything from them. You don't need validation, you don't need attention, you don't even need acknowledgement. You walk in with your own gravity, your own rhythm, your own focus, and that self-contained energy is terrifying because most people are used to others chasing the room. But you've trained to make the room come to you. This is what they don't understand. You didn't build your presence for popularity. You built it for power, not power over others, but power over yourself. And that self-mastery radiates. People don't know how to react to it, and they either get quiet or they get defensive. Either way, you've already won. Because when your presence carries discipline, intention, and silence refined into steel, you don't need to raise your voice. You just walk in, and the game restarts. You are the variable they didn't plan for. You are the shadow that exposes their weaknesses. You are the cold air that signals something dangerous has entered. And once they've felt your presence, they'll never forget it. Not because of what you did, not because of what you said, but because when you entered, everything changed. You don't need to be loud. You don't need their approval. You don't need their applause. Be the weapon they never saw coming. Be the presence they feel in their spine. And when they speak your name behind your back, make sure it's with fear. Now leave and let the silence speak for you.